We start tonight with a North Scott legend. Scott Campbell just retired from the North Scott Press after 40 years of covering Lancers sports. I say sports, but there was a whole lot more that you covered just in Lancers sports. So kind of take me, if you can briefly, through a 40-year career. Does it feel like it was 40 years?
It doesn't, because kind of like you, I never looked at this as a job. It was just a way of life.
Yeah.
And when you're out at North Scott, you immerse yourself in that community. And when you're at a weekly newspaper, even if it is the largest in Iowa, you do it all. You wear a lot of hats. I covered everything from politics to government to education to human interest to triumphs to tragedy and of course sports.
So when did you decide that this year, 2023, 40 years in, that okay, this was going to be it?
I kind of had an inkling after COVID. Things just kind of changed when COVID came, when I couldn't have that contact with the kids,
Sure.
That personal touch, and everything had to be done via phone and texting, and I just kind of thought, things just are different. And so I kind of knew about a year and a half ago that it was going to be done. And so for the last year, in my mind, I've kind of taken a farewell tour whenever I went to different gyms and saying, okay, this is the last time, that I'll be here. So I've known it, didn't make it public until last fall after the state semifinal game at the Unidome.
Right. So over those 40 years, who are some people, who are some players, some coaches, some parents, who are some people kind of influenced you or kind of that you remember throughout the years?
There are so many, and you really hate to name them because
Sure.
You're going to forget some.
Absolutely.
But, I've just been so blessed to work with so many great coaches at North Scott. From back in the day to people like Randy Schrader, Jeff Neumeister, Bill Harris, my early years, who went on to coach at West Des Moines Valley and coached a state basketball championship there, all the way up through Eugene Kreider to TJ Case, Seamus Buddy. The list goes on and on. In terms of players, back in the 80s, there was Mike Bush, who All-American at Iowa State for football and played baseball, played for the Dodgers. And then you got to talk about kids like Jenny Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Now the assistant basketball coach at Iowa. Fun fact, I'm probably the only person that ever covered her and Lisa Bluter when they're in their high school careers. When Lisa was Lisa Geske back then and played at Linn-Mar, and I was working for the Gazette in Cedar Rapids as a college kid.
And you said you started that actually in high school, right?
When I was a senior in high school, got a job at the Gazette sports desk Monday or Friday and Saturday nights, going in and just taking phone calls from all across eastern Iowa, taking stats and whatnot.
So to do this for 40 years, you had to enjoy it.
I did. And it's like I told you, Kory, it's not a job.
Right.
It's just who I am, and I have been, and it's kind of like you too, we believe that everybody has a story to tell. And it's really our privilege or our honor to be able to tell those stories. And I've done that for 40 years and had some great ones.
So over that time, you've seen some state championships. Any one more memorable than the other, or are they all kind of pretty cool when it happens?
They're all cool. I'm an emotional guy. I get teared up every time. I get choked up when I'm there. I'm a Lancer fan.
Yeah.
I try to be unbiased, but I'm a homer. Let's face it. You always remember the first. Back in 85 and 84, 85, and 86, North Scott's golden years of North Scott sports. The girls went to state in volleyball and basketball. They won the state volleyball championship in 85. Went to the finals 86. That same year, 85, might have been 84, we had our first state cross-country champion in Wendy Bear. I remember on that Saturday, I went to Ames for the cross-country meet, came back for the finals in volleyball in Des Moines that night. You never forget those. The first state basketball team going to state in 93 was actually North Scott's first winning season in basketball in 15, 17 years since joining the MAC. You never forget those. You remember the 2015 state boys basketball championship.
Right.
And even before that, in 2003, biggest game ever. It was a sub-state game between North Scott and Linn-Mar, ranked number 1 and number 2 in the state. You were probably there.
Logan,
Logan and Quitzel and Ferenckrug, the big three. That game was packed an hour before the game. standing room only, went down to the wire, should have been played a state championship game in Des Moines.
Right.
And you were, I'm sure, reported that as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So all those kind of things. And then you remember the tough ones too. There's always tough losses along the way, but also the people.
That's probably the biggest one, is the people. You probably have covered parents who now have kids who maybe have more. I mean, is there a lineage there of where you've covered some of these parents?
Think about this. I mean, I've covered TJ Case, girls basketball coach. I've covered Travis Rawls. Even before he was an athlete, he showed swine or hogs at the Mississippi Valley Fair, so I've covered him. You know, the list just goes on and on. And then even Seamus Buddy, you know, back in the day when he played for Bettendorf, he was this little redheaded, you know, point guard, this fiery that everybody loved to hate because he was just so intense. And then to come full circle, he became a coach at North Scott, just love the guy. You know, can say nothing but good things about him. And then you mentioned names like this year, North Scott senior Lauren Gollinghorst. Her dad once scored 40 points in a game, Kyle, back in the day. So just what a blessing to be able to see this lineage of people.
So what's next?
For me, you know, I thought I would go through withdrawal. So far, I'm not.
Good.
You know, my last really big game was the state semifinals, and I remember walking out after talking to Kevin Tippett, and I walked into the middle of the Unidome, and there was nobody there. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and so I just stood at midfield and just looked around, got my phone out, never take selfies, tried to take a selfie of myself in the middle of the Unidome thinking, okay, if this is where it ends, this is where it ends. But other than that, I'm a big pickleball guy.
Okay.
And so there'll be a lot of pickleball in my future.
Very nice. So you retire, but yet you may have more to do because now the wife is probably going to have a honey-do list and all the things for you to do, right? And now you get to spend more time with her.
You know, and that's the thing too, Kory. As you probably well know, my wife has made a lot of sacrifices. For 40 years, every Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, she's home alone. You know, and I'm out covering other people's kids. Same way with my daughter. She's a 2006 North Scott grad. You know, and I missed some of her growing up for other people's kids. But it's time for a change. It's a new chapter and a new story to write.
Well, Scott, I appreciate all you've done. I appreciate our friendship over the years and the conversations we've had over the years. So.
And I thank you, Kory. It's always been a joy to see you on the sidelines, and you've always been very respectful of the old white-haired guy.
Somebody who can teach me something along the way, though. I understand it. Scott, thank you so much. Good luck to you in retirement.
Appreciate it.